Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I really hope you're doing well this week. A couple of things to talk through. So firstly, I did finally get to putting together like one single landing page for all of the stuff I've been talking about recently about building declarative agents with API plugins for Microsoft Copilot. If you've been following these weekly series every week, none of this will be new information because I've been sort of telling you as I've been doing each one. But it's a 5-part series, and if you want one page to go with all 5 of the parts on, that's the first link to share with you today. And it is literally that. It's, the 5 videos. Here they all are. Each one has a blog post with it as well if you prefer that to the video. But yeah, like I say, nothing new there. But it was a really interesting journey actually building out Claude's Pilot, which if you follow me on LinkedIn, I've now started doing. Again, I've resumed now that the work on the, putting those videos and blog posts together for the series is done. I've resumed my experiment. We're about halfway through. I said I was going to do it for 30 days. We're roughly halfway through. And actually the nice thing about pausing it to now and then resuming it is actually that it's going to cover the MVP Summit. So I am sort of thinking about maybe I should use Claude's Pilot to pack for the MVP Summit. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, other things to tell you about. There is a marketing-y style blog post, but it's quite interesting anyway, on the Microsoft Copilot Studio blog. So this is Microsoft Copilot Studio, the lower code, like kind of low code version. How to deploy transformational enterprise-wide agents. And this is talking about Microsoft's internal journey deploying out some of these agents, which is always interesting. It's always, Microsoft are a big enterprise. They have the same kind of challenges as many other big enterprises. So it is interesting when they open up a little bit about some of the challenges and things that they've seen in deploying this stuff. So they call themselves Customer Zero, and they go through the journey around building an employee self-service agent. And you can kind of see some of the screenshots. They started it and then they rebuilt it for generative AI, which kind of makes sense. They've got some numbers in here as well, but they've also got some things you should think about when you're doing this, about planning, about sources, and this is a kind of a good template to follow through. If you're thinking about doing this, but you're not quite sure whether it's ready for enterprise scale, or you're not really sure about how to approach it as a project, that might be a good thing to look through because it's a company that have done it before. Now, granted, it's Microsoft talking about Microsoft, so it is always going to. You just need to bear that in mind when you're reading it. But, there's definitely some useful lessons in there. Okay, next up, in Copilot Studio, there is now GPT 4.5. Which is the latest AI model from OpenAI. I did hear something recently, like this morning, but I was listening to it, like not reading it, so I didn't have good sources, that I think 4.5 is going to be the last version, maybe without any reasoning. So we'll see, which is kind of crazy because already it says 4.5 is going to, in about 3 months' time, will be seen as legacy, which is amazing. But for right now, it's in Copilot Studio, so you can get it in preview. You need to be paying for Copilot to see it, I think, because it's a premium model. But you can get it on, there you go. You can see it in Copilot Studio as well. So this is all good if you are looking for 4.5. I've used it. It's good. It's getting really close to the uncanny valley of natural speech. So give it a try if you haven't tried it already. It might be right for what you need. We're in this weird place. I think in a couple of years' time, we won't have to make these kind of decisions about models and stuff like that because it'll be really clear. 90% of people will just use one model. But at the moment, we're really just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Okay, so this is a really surprising blog post entry I wasn't expecting to talk about for 2025. Visual Studio is changing up the solution file format. Again, I feel like this happened a few years ago, didn't it? And it didn't, I can't really remember what happened. It either didn't go very well and got backed out, or it just sort of happened and we carried on and nothing really changed. I think they're moving to an XML based model, which is kind of retro, I guess, but also makes a lot of sense. So they've got a bunch of challenges they've been tasked with overcoming. This is a standard Visual Studio solution file, which you'll be familiar with. They want to move it to more of a XML version like this. Now, I am so sure we've done this once before, but I can't really remember. I did have to check the date on this a few times, but it is this year. But anyway, this is coming. They're going to put an X on it, so it's going to be SLNX, so you can tell the difference. Yeah, so I mean, just look out for that if you use Visual Studio files. People tend to have strong thoughts in either way, in either direction on this. But I don't know. If it makes it easier to work with, that's great. If it makes it less prone to corruption, that's really good as well. And those are really the two things I care about in Visual Studio solution files. I don't tend to mess with them much. I want them to work. You need somewhere to store that data. So as long as they work, I don't really care. Anything that makes them more robust is good. And yeah, all good. All right, coming back to Copilot again, because of course, but staying with Visual Studio, Claude 3.7, the model from Anthropic, is now available in GitHub Copilot for Visual Studio. If you're paying for Copilot, this is not in the free version. But if you want to switch to using Claude 3.7 for your GitHub chats, then you absolutely can do. But it's in preview. They've got 3.5 Sonnet and 3.7 Sonnet. I've used Claude Sonnet. I like it. It seems to be very good. I would say it's on par with like a 3.5 or a 4 or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know that it's as good as an O1, honestly. But I don't know. I think it very much depends on your use case, and it very much depends on what you're doing with it. So, yeah, my opinion is largely relevant to your use case, probably. So you can do this today in Visual Studio as long as you're paying for GitHub Copilot. You can, there's a place to go and select your model, and if you do that, you should find that Claude Sonnet models are in there. So that's interesting. Good to see Microsoft broadening out, not just the OpenAI stuff. I think it's really important that they keep GitHub Copilot Chat and Visual Studio Copilot and those places open as much as possible to allowing you to choose multiple models. Inside of Microsoft 365, I think it's more of a closed environment. It's more their experience, and I think they can hand wave and hide the models a little bit. But for stuff, developer-facing stuff, Visual Studio, GitHub, and those places, I think it's really important to give developers the choice of what models they want to use, including when they're available local models as well. All right, finally, there's one more thing to tell you about, which is Microsoft Build, which it feels crazy that it's come to that time already, but it is coming down the track quite fast. It's towards the end of May. They've got the dates out, May 19th to 22nd. It's going to be in Seattle and online. You can register now, but the agenda is not yet out. But I mean, you can probably guess what's going to be there, right? It's going to be quite a lot of AI stuff, plus some other bits and pieces. But there is a registration page now that you can go to register your tickets. I would guess that if you want to go in person to Seattle, you should book that now because it will fill up. They don't have loads and loads of spaces. I don't know if they tell you anywhere how many spaces they have. So we'll see. It doesn't say, it just says places are limited. So I don't know how many they're capping it at. But if that's interesting to you, then I think you should get on that straight away. As in previous years, they have a free digital registration, which is excellent. They're not gating the registration anyway, so that's really good. So you can enjoy that whether you're traveling or not. If you can't make it to Seattle, and I'm pretty sure I can't make it to Seattle for Build, I will be joining digitally, which is a great way to join because you can watch them in your time zone at your leisure. You just have to make the time to do so, which is always the challenge. All right, enough from me. I'm going to stop talking. Have a great week, whatever it is you're doing. Speak to you next time.